coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning. I live by the river.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast, number 14, I think we're on now, amazingly, as we enter December. I am Matt H. Matt V, my normal companion on this, is not around this week. We'll hope to have him back next week. So in his stead, and someone who may be an occasional podder in the future for us anyway, is Pete. Hello, Pete.
Hello there, Matt. A pleasure to be with you.
Well, thank you, Pete, and I know you've done this previously, so we'll, you know the score, which is the main thing. Right, now, one of the reasons Pete is on, apart from the fact he's very knowledgeable about Arsenal and season ticket and all the rest of it, is that he was at the Southampton League Cup game last week, which is our first game we're going to look at. So, Pete, this was obviously not on TV, although I'm sure people found ways of keeping up with it. But for someone who was actually there, I mean, the floor is yours. What did you think?
Well, yeah, I was one of the lucky few who got to enjoy it live, so and see it in all its glory. And I think I would say, first of all, that preceding any comments, I should state that I really don't care about the EFL Cup, and I really don't care about not going through. So any moaning I'm doing is nothing to do with the fact that we didn't win. My main gripe was that I thought the selection was a weird one, that whilst not using lots of first team players or first choice first team players, actually took it a bit more seriously than I think we should have done, really. I know it was against Southampton, and Wenger has this thing where he will take the EFL Cup seriously if it's against a Premier League team, whereas he won't if it's against Reading or Nottingham Forest. But I just think he should have gone with the same sort of team. I think he should have played Maitland-Niles. I think he shouldn't have gone with first team players such as Lucas and Ramsey, who'd been out injured for ages. I suppose you can argue it might have been a way to get them back into some football, but Lucas just wasn't up to it at all. He was obviously a man who hadn't played for a long time, and he wasn't bad, I don't mean that, but he didn't have the energy to do it. Ramsey didn't have the energy to do it. But picking them sort of suggested we were taking it seriously. I was disappointed, and the Coquelin El Neni midfield, I mean, that's adventurous, isn't it? And I just, as soon as I saw the team, I thought, oh God, this is going to be dull. And it was hugely dull, unadventurous, uninteresting, unexciting, except I saw two very nice goals by Southampton.
Well, that's it, and I know I've known you long enough to know you can appreciate quality by the opposition, as long as they're not playing for certain teams, obviously. We need to bear that in mind. But I mean, I'm just looking at the lineup, and just people will have seen this anyway, but just in case people aren't aware, first teamers you're looking at people like Gibbs, Gabriel, Ramsey, Coquelin, Iwobi, El Neni and Lucas, if you like, first team, all very close first team, all starting. And then, of course, you had Oxlade-Chamberlain, Xhaka on the bench as well. So, yeah, there was some strength there.
Yeah, but very little on the bench as well. That kind of annoyed me. Again, and particularly, no striking option on the bench. I mean, surely we could have had Walcott on the bench, or possibly even Sanchez. I mean, surely, you know you're going to need to score a goal to go through in a cup game. So, I mean, it just made no sense to me not to have. I think Mavididi was on the bench. He was a striker, but he didn't come on, which again didn't make sense to me. I mean, surely you're trying to score goals. I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain came on and played all right, but I just really didn't. It just showed complete lack of adventure to me. The team line-up and everything, and that's what it turned out to be. Very boring. I wouldn't have minded going out at all, and I don't care about that. But I just wanted to have a bit more entertainment than I did.
So it was not. It was almost like caught between two stools. It was almost like have this as a proper kind of younger team, or get some more first teams in, as we probably would have seen had it been a semi-final, say, for argument's sake. I mean, it's interesting. Lucas played the whole 90 as well, which is interesting for someone coming back from an injury. But I guess the manager had faith in him, so we will in turn have faith in the manager.
Yeah, and he wasn't bad. And as I say, I don't care about going out. I think come January, when we're not playing a two-legged semi-final against Liverpool, between FA Cup third round and fourth round and league games against Swansea and Burnley and Watford, closely followed by a trip to Stamford Bridge, I think we're going to be pretty happy in the semi-final of the EFL Cup.
It is, and it is a shame. It's a shame that that's what happens with this competition. But that's the way it is. Now, what we also know is that a lot of the people who go to the League Cup games are not regulars. We know that a lot of people go along because the club sells tickets cheap and the season ticket holders take a break and all the rest of it, and it doesn't actually count as part of the season ticket. I wonder how much. So when I've been before on those kind of occasions, even though I'm going as a season ticket holder, I felt the atmosphere can be quite good. But what was interesting, stuff I read suggested there was booing at the end of the first and the second half. I mean, was that widespread? And what do you think it is? Is it genuine frustration, or is it those people who've taken the time out to have one night out with the football that they do once every sort of 4 months, and that kind of disappointment coming out?
Yeah, I couldn't work it out. I mean, there were people booing, and I could never understand it on whatever circumstances, really. They weren't season ticket holders. They were just booing, presumably because they weren't happy. But maybe they just felt like me, that wasn't entertaining.
Maybe, I think it's probably they may not have thought about it as much as you have. I'm guessing, but there we go. Well, that did okay. So, any other particular points on that game you'd like to bring up? Because we have more. We have nicer things to talk about, but if you've got anything else to mention, please do.
I wish I'd taken a pair of gloves.
Well, there we go. There's the quote. The gloves. If that's all you can say, then perhaps it's time we did move on. It was, of course, the end of the unbeaten run, which was a minor disappointment. And as I read somewhere, we now have to say unbeaten in the league since August or whatever. But I'll take that. I mean, I'm with you on this. It would have been nice.
Unbeaten at all, basically.
No, we have to keep qualifying it. It doesn't really work, does it? But no, I mean, I agree with you. It would have been nice to continue, but there are upsides, as you've alluded to, the slightly less crowded fixture list. And let's face it, when we were both at the League Cup finals against Birmingham and against Chelsea, and neither of those were particularly fun to be at anyway. Yeah. So, maybe we've dodged a particular bullet there.
Let's leave that to Liverpool this year.
Yeah, that would be nice. Or at least, someone else can worry about it. Okay, so we'll move on from that game. But before we get into the joy and fun that was the London Stadium on Saturday evening, something just to break up the thing. We had news on we're in the sort of bad news bit, if you like. Cazorla, another 3 months out, it seems, at least, and this is an Arsenal injury, so goodness knows how many months that might actually be. I mean, touch wood, I'm finding some wood to touch it, the team has managed so far. Is it more of the same? Do we need to do anything in January? Because Cazorla obviously can offer that invention, that other stuff that we've sometimes missed in some of the more recent games, and we haven't perhaps looked quite as good. Any thoughts on that? Anything we need to do, or do we just use that pool of midfielders that we have?
I think the thing to remember is we're not going to do anything in January, so just forget it, move on. I mean, it seems, although we've definitely not played as well without Cazorla as we would have done, I'm sure, we have managed to deal with it this season. Whereas I think last season when he was absent, we totally failed to deal with it. I think it looks like so far we have a bit, and maybe it's not so much of a problem. 3 months is a long time, but let's see what's happening at the end of December and how we've got on, whether we've continued to deal with his absence or not. But maybe at the end of December, if things have started to fall apart a bit more than they have now, then we'll be crying for something to go out and happen, but it won't happen. So let's just deal with that and move on.
You make a good point. Yes. Well, we seem to be flush with cash these days, apart from all the money. Well, up until we start throwing it all at Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez, which seems to be everyone's plan, and quite understandably. Yes, we're not going to buy anyone unless it's in January, unless it's obviously another Swede with a broken back or whatever, one of our other surprise buys. But we'll see how that goes.
What it does show, or what it must do, is really make Jack Wilshere think about his decision.
Well, yeah. Well, we could recall him. I mean, that was something I've seen come up as an option. Apparently, well, I'm going to be caught out going with substandard Jack Wilshere knowledge, but as far as I'm aware, I have seen it mooted at least that we could, in theory, recall him, but I don't know quite how that would work.
I mean, he's been playing well, but I mean, not that well. But maybe.
But he's not the same.
Maybe it would be a solution to think about, particularly if things seem to get worse with Cazorla, and it's going to be more than 3 months or whatever. And as I say, or the team aren't dealing with it at all.
Well, they're not quite the same kind of player either, are they? So it wouldn't necessarily wouldn't be like for like. So it would just be coping in a slightly different way. But okay, well we'll leave that and we'll see how that carries on. I made a note here and I can't quite remember what it is, but I have a vague recollection. Ralph Hasenhüttl. Does that name mean anything to you?
No,
he's a manager of, I've forgotten which team it is. It's one of the German teams. I think it might be Leipzig. Who was asked this week about rumours about him replacing Arsene Wenger, and he sort of didn't deny them. But I don't know if it was some kind of German humour thing when he was just saying, oh yes, well that would be very nice or something. I didn't write the whole quote down. Anyway, we won't mention it anymore now. But just one to keep an eye on. If you heard it here first, well not probably not first, but you heard it at some point.
The possible January signing I hear could be Draxler.
Well, that's something I've seen knocked about today, because he's said again that he's looking to leave Wolfsburg, but he says that quite a lot, or he seems to. So I think we've all waited for Draxler before, and nothing much has come of it. So it's the kind of one you're not going to believe until you've seen him actually walking down Holloway Road or something. So wait and see for that one. All right, so that's the bad, as it were. I mean, it's not that bad, but the lower end of the scale in terms of the Arsenal season so far, or at least this week, as it was. Let's move. Oh, go on. Sorry.
I'll just check. Is El Neni all right after the Southampton game?
I haven't heard anything to suggest he's not. So as far as I'm aware, he's. I know he came off early, didn't he? But as far as I'm aware, he's still around. He was on the bench on. Yes, he did come on Saturday, just at the very end. Cool. So yes, I thought I'd seen him over the weekend. So yes, he did turn up at some point. So let's move on then. So West Ham don't like playing there. Their fans don't like it, but Alexis Sanchez might well have fallen in love with the London Stadium after Saturday. So this was Arsenal beating West Ham 5-1 on Saturday evening with scintillating football from Sanchez, involved in 4 of the goals, and then the one he wasn't involved in was pretty spectacular effort from Oxlade-Chamberlain as well. Where do you start with this? I mean, it was a fantastic performance. You can only start with Sanchez, and I actually have a note here. I don't know if there's any team in the Premier League that would swap any of their players for him. I know I'm saying that with slightly Arsenal tinted specs, but I can't think of anyone I'd want from another team when he's on form. Pete, what was your thoughts on him?
He was brilliant, and I just hope he continues to be that brilliant. It was a stunning display, and just completely knocked the stuffing out of West Ham, didn't he? He just said, right, I'm taking this game by the scruff of the neck, and I'm going to win it for us, and he did so. And I thought to myself that I wondered how happy Olivier Giroud was seeing it, because if he continues to play like that, then Giroud ain't going to get another start easily.
No, he's not. I mean, let's think of it from the team point of view and then sort of the club point of view, because we like Giroud, of course, but when you've got Sanchez playing like that in that position, there's not even a discussion, is there, to be had about how you set the team up and who you have in that position.
No, he's our striker, and that's it.
That's it, isn't it? It's taken a couple of years to get there, but that's where we are now.
I suppose there's a possibility that should the wide men all go missing at the same time, then possibly you might move it about and put Sanchez out wide and Giroud through the middle. But until that happens, then he's staying in the middle, isn't he?
Yeah, and I mean that's 12 goals I think it is now this season, which is already a very impressive total. I actually, I suppose we should keep our feet on the ground to some degree, because with 15 minutes to go, it was potentially still up in the air. I mean, West Ham did look fairly appalling in that first half, and we should have been scoring a lot more than we did. Second half, they looked better, as you would hope any home team would be, even if it is a team that's not really in a place they really think of much as home yet. But yes, I thought we were going to sneak the 1 or 2-0 kind of thing. I even cashed out a bet I had on there being more than 4 goals, which I shouldn't have done, but as it turned out. But there was only a few minutes left. I mean, I was worried about those missed chances in the first half. As it happened, they didn't come back to bite us, but there was that possibility. But did you start to have that feeling of we're going to regret this sooner or later?
Yeah, it was all pretty nervous, wasn't it? In general, I'm sure the team felt that way as well, and that's why it's so good to have Sanchez just to say, well, don't worry about it, lads, so I can sort them out. But yes, we should have taken some of the earlier chances, and it is a worry that it was all about Sanchez and not really about the rest of the team, because, no, other than the Oxlade-Chamberlain goal, they were all Sanchez, weren't they?
Yeah.
He scored 3, and the other one he made anyway. Although, Coquelin made the interception for the first one?
Coquelin sort of got in the way, didn't he, for that first one, yeah.
So, it wasn't about great team play, but a lot of the missed chances were good team play. And, that is a bit of a worry. And the longer it's at 1-0, you always get worried. And, it could have gone completely the other way, couldn't it? If Andy Carroll has come on before that, or enough time to get them back in the game before Sanchez puts them out of it, who knows what's going to happen.
Well, Andy Carroll not coming on early was a bit of a surprise, because he was someone I was concerned about. Obviously, he hasn't played since August, but as he showed, he knows where the goal is, to use a tired old cliche. I'm slightly surprised he didn't come on earlier, because they might as well have tried something, because although they had a bit more of the ball in the second half, there wasn't much happening for West Ham. The reliance on Sanchez, we're football fans here, we're going to start looking at for the downside of being pessimistic, but is he going to need a rest? He doesn't seem to. He seems to be, cyborg rather than human, but I'm just wondering, will Wenger, do you think, look for even the odd game, even the odd half maybe, where he can give him a little break?
Well, the problem seems to be that he doesn't want it, even if... So, I'm not sure. I think he'll just continue to play him, particularly with Cazorla out. He can't risk it, can he? As I say, he was that win against West Ham, and he was the reason it wasn't horrible and nervous and potentially falling apart. So I think he'll just continue to play him. Although I wonder if he will miss, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, miss the Basel game.
Well, we'll come on to that, because that's an interesting thought. Looking at, I'm just looking at the team, the way it lined up against West Ham. Obviously, we don't have Bellerin at the moment, but other than that, it's looking arguably first choice, I think. Xhaka is the interesting one there, of course. So Xhaka was starting, and he does seem to have done well over the last few games. You wonder if he's now going to be that if he's nailing down a place in the midfield, because I'm not sure any of our players really do that, but he's got that under his belt for the moment, if we put it like that. I think that's his for now.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I was going to mention Oxlade-Chamberlain, because I thought he was very good throughout the game, scored the goal. He's got 6 goals already this season, which is a pretty impressive return as well. Yeah,
for a guy who's not even playing that much.
Yeah, he looks good as well.
And he's had a couple of poor performances, though, hasn't he? He had the Tottenham cameo, which was appalling. But other than that, he's mostly had some really good performances. And he has changed the game. It was kind of a shame in the EFL Cup game that he wasn't able to turn that around a bit more than he did.
Yep.
Came off the bench there, but and you almost expected him to. He was certainly our brightest point on the night, I think, in that Southampton game. And he does, and maybe he is beginning to make that step up that everyone wants him to make.
Well, it's he wasn't. He's been around for a few years now, so let's hope he. That's for benefit for everyone. Let's hope he can really. I don't know if he's always going to be the first name on the team sheet, but he can be in that conversation, to use another horrible phrase.
He's in front of Iwobi in the pecking order again, though, isn't he? That's the main thing. At the beginning of the season, Iwobi was the man, and while he's in front of him, I think he'll keep that unless his form drops.
It's going to be very tight between the pair of them, isn't it? But you can imagine perhaps give one a rest now and again, or play things around. It's a lovely problem to have, and let's hope that they continue both to make the most of it, because the team as a whole, here we are, 14 league games into the season, and we're in the second spot. We're only 3 off the lead. It's great that we've got these players who are fighting for places, and unlike in previous years, and I think me and Matt discussed this earlier in the season, generally speaking, that reserve level, if you like, is higher than it has been perhaps for several years. So that's very promising. We'll stick with that.
And just a bit of word eating from me, or humble pie, because I remember when I was on earlier with you, I was quite critical of Ox and his crossing ability, or his at that point quite stupendous ability to cross into completely vacant areas of the pitch. He has sorted that out as well for the moment, so good on him.
Good on him. Yeah, it was a good performance. Yeah, certainly.
Making me look stupid.
Well, I'm sure that wasn't his plan, but we'll take that. I mean, there are loads of positives on the game. The only negative that came out, I think, I mean, there was a couple of times when I wondered if there was going to be some injuries with Gabriel and Koscielny. I've got a couple of notes here, but obviously there doesn't seem to have been any problems with them long term. The weird one was the news about Jenkinson before the game. This idea that he wasn't playing because he didn't have any confidence, which seems to be, well, A, odd in itself, but B, quite odd for Wenger to sort of mention it in public, because that's not the way he does things normally. That's the kind of thing Mourinho would do, and we know he's not like that. So, any thoughts on that sort of disclosure?
Well, maybe he was just trying to save the player the embarrassment of him saying, well, I've dropped him. That, almost saying, well, this is his choice, really. And he's not confident enough to do it at the moment, and maybe it was trying to save him a bit of embarrassment. I mean, it didn't, because obviously.
Yes, I'm not sure it really helped, did it? But
no. But he's not been great, has he? I mean, I think we all love Carl and want him to do well, but he really hasn't. Now that he's had the opportunity to step in for Bellerin, and anyone would struggle, wouldn't they, to try and replace Bellerin?
Yes, absolutely.
And he hasn't been that bad, but you can see that. I mean, again, he didn't play in the Southampton game, did he? He did. He did play in the Southampton game, and again, I thought that was, if anything, the time to play someone like Maitland-Niles instead, to just take him out of the spotlight a bit, and put someone else in, and just say, well, that's not the problem. But presumably, if he hasn't got the confidence, then we've got real trouble if Gabriel gets injured and can't play there, or a centre back gets injured and we have to put Gabriel in the middle.
Yeah, the defence is looking slightly dodgy in that respect at the moment, with Debuchy out for a long time, it seems, and Jenkinson, obviously, we're not sure what's going to happen with him. So up front and what have you, we seem to be okay at the moment, but yeah, well, let's just hope we don't get a run of injuries. I mean, that's the bottom line at the moment. Let's just keep our fingers crossed for that. All right, well, time is getting on, so we'll sacrifice everything that needs to be sacrificed to make sure we don't get the injuries. But let's move on. So West Ham, great, very happy with everything there. Before we do the previews, there was a couple other points I wanted to make. The FA Cup third round draw is being made as we're doing this, and I've spotted that Arsenal are away to Preston. Preston, I'm not going to put you on the spot to tell me everything you know about Preston. They're halfway up the Championship, nearly exactly. It's an away game, possibly a television one, I'm guessing, given our league performance, but we'll see how that goes. But any thoughts at this stage about that game, or not?
Only that, Wenger, I think, does he still have the record of never having lost to a lower league team in the FA Cup?
Oh, I think he probably does, yes.
Unless it went last season, I can't remember. I think he still has it. So
yeah, I don't know. There might be some other sort of qualifiers to it, like at home or in a certain round or something like that.
No, it was definitely in the FA Cup. They never lost to a lower league team in the FA Cup, and that, unless it happened last season, I can't remember now. So no, I'm sure it didn't.
Well, no, I'll go with your knowledge on that one.
I think let's be confident.
Yeah, let's be confident. All right, we'll leave it at that and move on.
We're great away from home, and he'll take it seriously, and it'll all be good.
It'll all be good. We've scored loads of goals actually in the league. I was looking at the stats today, and I think we are a number of goals ahead of where we were last year. I can't remember what we were, but it's like 9 goals ahead or something. And our goal difference is very good, and everything, if you just look at the stats, it's interesting, it's very healthy. It's compared to Spurs, whose goal difference is sort of quite a bit less. Well, they only scored 19 goals or something, considering they scored 5 this week, whereas we're on 30 something, if I'm not mistaken. Just nothing to discuss necessarily, just something to note. Just it's nice to see that we're we may not be taking all our chances, but we are taking a few of them at least, which is nice.
Well, it fits in with Arsene's comments that this season we have to some extent maybe sacrificed a little defensive stability for better offensive options, and that's happening. We're scoring more goals. We may be conceding a few more, but we're doing what we weren't doing before, which is scoring enough goals to get through it. So
okay. Well, let's. I mean, the league position is good because City and Liverpool dropped points this weekend. I mean, obviously City or Chelsea were going to drop points. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but if you do, have a look. Someone on Twitter has done the Aguero challenge on David Luiz, but with the commentary when Aguero scored that goal against QPR to win City the league a few years ago. So Martin Tyler getting very excited, and someone's done it rather well. So when have a look at that if you haven't already. So as Aguero tries to cripple Luiz. You've got Martin Tyler's big shout. It's rather neatly done and done ridiculously quickly, I think, after the game. So,
of course, the lovely Cesc Fabregas.
Yes.
One of my favourite moments of the weekend. Somehow managing to get away with it. Hopefully he won't do. Hopefully he'll be. Not that they're playing him anyway.
No. But, I think there may be some retrospective, whatever they call it. Yes, there might be something going on.
And presumably, am I right, in the 4-game ban, I was trying to just top this up, presumably in the 4-game ban he won't be available for them against us. I know we're not looking that far ahead today.
Aguero? No, he won't be able to, no, he will not be able to play against Arsenal. He won't be able to play, I think, until the very end of December, so that is good news. I think, I'm a fan of Aguero when he's not trying to maim people. Unless they're Chelsea players, that doesn't make a huge difference to me. But I think he's fantastic, and I'm pleased that we will not be facing him. Certainly,
we can be very happy at that. Well done, Sergio.
well done, Sergio. Yes, right. We've gone on quite a while with all that good news from the London Stadium. They've got to come up with a better name for it than that as well. Anyway, so we'll very quickly do some previews. So this week on Tuesday, tomorrow, we will be away in Basel, however we say it, in our let's face it, fruitless attempt to finish top of the group. So our record in PSG is the same, so we need to match PSG. Oh, no, we don't. We need to do better than PSG, sorry. So if PSG win, there's nothing we can do about it. And they are at home to Ludogorets, and even though PSG lost rather tragically 3-0 something this weekend, although I did see it turned out they were staying in the same hotel as the finalists of the Miss France competition. And some people have suggested maybe that was why they then looked somewhat inept against, I think it was Montpellier, was it? The following day or whatever it was. So there's one for the conspiracy theorists. So we'll keep it brief. Is there any sort of interest in this game? I mean, what's Wenger going to do? You alluded to potentially resting players earlier for this one.
I hope he does, but I doubt he will. I think he'll take it seriously just on the back, and I suppose he has to be honest. I suppose we all have to. We all have to work on the basis that. No, we don't. No, I'm going to forget that. No, because I still don't think this first in the group makes any difference, particularly in a year where a lot of the second place teams may be a lot better than the first place teams. So I'm not. But I'm sure he will take it seriously, and he might make a couple of shots. I think Giroud might start up front in that one game, and I think maybe in that he might leave Sanchez, give him a bit of a rest if he can. If Sanchez will let him, if Sanchez doesn't basically intimidate him into playing him, I think he might do. But other than that, I think he'll play a pretty strong team, which I wouldn't do. I would just go out and play whoever, basically.
Anyone who's around, basically. Supporters, travelling fans, take your boots, and you've got a chance of getting in. If
you manage to win, great, and if you don't.
Well, when you become Arsenal manager in the future, we'll bear that in mind, and we'll see how you play it. I mean, I think it's a tricky one.
I suppose the other thing is you have to be fair to Basel and Ludogorets, don't you? You have to be fair to them.
Yes, because I suppose they'll actually be playing for Europa League place.
They will be, which of course Tottenham will be doing as well.
Yes, they will. Yeah, well, that's a perfect place to end that bit. We'll see. Yeah, I think it's going to be. I'm going to say we're going to end it, but I'm going to say one more thing. It will be interesting. I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how the team goes. And it's almost going to be more interesting to see the other results over the Tuesday and Wednesday to see, okay, who are we going to get? I mean, it's going to be Barcelona. We sort of know that anyway. But at least who else we could technically get, even if it's not where we end up. Okay.
Do you buy this theory that the one other good thing about finishing top of the group is that they're playing the second leg at home?
Well, Matt and I discussed this the other week, I think, briefly. I know that Arsene has in the past, I don't think I'm making this up, I think Arsene in the past has suggested that he doesn't think it matters hugely. I think he quite likes the away leg second because then you sort of know what you've got to say, what you've got to do. Now again, is this just him just being him, looking for positives when it's come up in the past? I mean, obviously I've been to plenty of these home deciding games over the years. I think there can be a bit of tension, there can be a bit of stress perhaps, which maybe you don't get if you're the away leg. I don't know. It sort of depends. I don't know. I mean, the stats would probably show the home leg second is better, but perhaps that's because it's the slightly better teams that get the second leg at home. Yeah. So it may be that skews the stats a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd probably prefer to play at home second, but only possibly because I've been conditioned to think that way. I'm not sure it makes a massive difference.
Yeah. So let's forget about it and not worry at all about Tuesday.
And we won't have to worry about this until February or March or whatever it is anyway, so it's such a long way away.
An entertaining game.
Well, entertaining, but yeah, let's hope Sport's the winner, etc. That'll be fine. Somewhere where Sport won't be the winner is then our home game against Stoke on Saturday.
Indeed it won't.
No, obviously we don't like Stoke particularly. I don't like West Ham, and we did well against them, so maybe the same kind of thing will work. It's a home game. It's a Saturday 3:00, which is rare in itself. Obviously a bit early for team news, and it might depend a little bit on what happens on Tuesday as well. And we are playing the following Tuesday away at Everton. Before then, another tough away game at Man City. So I don't know. We're not going to want to lose to Stoke, though, are we? We're going to want to put a pretty decent team out against them. Yeah,
we'll play. I should hope so. I hope we batter them.
Yes.
Then I shall be there, and I will be. Not expecting. I will be hoping with all my heart for a good battering of Stoke, please. Shaqiri is a bit of a worry. He's been playing well, hasn't he? But other than that, I'm not sure Stoke are up to much, and I think we should. It will be nice to have a little bit of a statement against them after all our travails in the past.
It would. I mean, we've always done well. Someone's going to pick me up on this, but we've always done well at home against them, I think, certainly over the last few years. It's a bit like that kind of Bolton thing, where when Allardyce was the manager of Bolton all those years ago, but actually when you looked at the stats, we did pretty well against them. After the sort of an initial couple of dodgy results, there were then years we did absolutely fine. I think Stoke may be a little bit like that. We've got this idea they're a pain for us, and they have been tricky, but I think the home record against them is pretty, as it is against any other team really, is pretty solid.
Good. So 3 points.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, so we'll leave it there, but because we'd only be guessing at team news and what have you. But yeah, I'd expect a strong team, and let's face it, if Arsenal can play like they did on Saturday, then very few teams would be able to live with them if they can play like that. So that's the plan. That's the blueprint. We'll go with that.
Splendid.
All right. Well, there we go. We've rambled on, but we had plenty of good stuff to discuss with that West Ham performance, which was fantastic. And apart from obviously hoping that Sanchez is locked up to a ridiculously big new contract before too long, that would be a nice way to, that would be a nice Christmas present if that could be sorted out soon.
That would be, wouldn't it?
It would be fantastic. And as anyone else. And I say the team are playing well. We're in a good spot in the league. Let's hope we can keep that going through this December period. Right. On that note, then, Pete, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Matt. It's a pleasure.
And thank you everyone for listening. And we'll be back next week with me and Matt and possibly others. And Pete will be back at some point down the line in the season. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care, and we'll speak to you soon.